live now. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Nan. I'm filling in for Rev Ed and Rev G here at the Centers for Spiritual Living in wonderful Cambridge. And it is my honor and privilege to be giving the service today. Lucky you, viewers. If you only knew. Okay. Well, you're about to. All right. So, we are celebrating this year 100 years of Science of Mind. So, every week we've been referring to lessons out of the Living the Science of Mind, which is one of Ernest Holmes' books. And so each week we've been working our way through it, but I don't need to tell many of you this because you've been reading right along. So you're all up to speed with it. And so when we heard Vicky's beautiful reading today from this, she was reading the section that was for this week. And this month we are celebrating spiritual mind treatment, which is what she read about, which is spiritual mind treatment, the feeling. And so they are making Ernest Holmes and the teachings are making a distinction in this month that spiritual mind treatment is not just a process or a procedure where you repeat a formula of words, but it is also something that has to be felt, and there needs to be a connection. Predominantly, the feeling is this connection with spirit, and so this is what today's talk is going to be about. That spiritual mind treatment is not just well-wishing, which was the title of the reading that Vicky gave us this morning. And so, for those of you who may not be familiar with what we refer to as spiritual mind treatment, okay, thank you. Treatment is something that when something is wrong in our lives, maybe we have a back pain, we get a treatment, we go to the chiropractor, maybe we notice a few extra wrinkles and we go get a facial. So these are the kind of treatments that we're referencing, but then we go to the word mind, this means that it's not a physical treatment, but it is a mind treatment. And when we say spiritual, we are referring to that which is based on spiritual principles and truths, and that it is from the point of view of spiritual truth, and it's not psychological, and it's not some sort of electroshock therapy. So it's a spiritual mind treatment, is not well-wishing. That's what we mean by spiritual mind treatment. And if you missed out on any of this that's happened before, you can go back to the Facebook and see previous sermons, which will bring you up to date, or you can look in your Living the Science of Mind and read earlier chapters. So if any of the things that I say today, you're saying, well, gee, I need more background, that's where you can go to get more information. It's all in the book. So today's reading is, and what today's sermon is going to talk about, is going to provide encouragement for us in our prayer practice, and it reminds us why spiritual mind treatment is effective, and it shows us how to make it even more effective. Ernest Holmes wrote this, and it kind of gives an overview then for the whole spiritual mind treatment. I know that there is a technique for spiritual mind treatment which can be taught. I also know that there is something vital to a treatment which cannot be taught. The identification with center and source of my being, which is pure spirit. This I must find for myself through continuous awareness of the presence that surrounds and indwells me. I make conscious use of the principle for definite purpose, but must ground the action with a deep inner perception and conviction of spiritual truth about myself and am in any condition related to the treatment. A perception of wholeness is the consciousness of healing. If we are to become whole, It must be through the perception of wholeness. The mold which we create with the intellect is necessary, but the realization which catches fire from heaven must be like heaven. So what does he mean when he is saying this? That he's referring, of course, to the technique, the steps that you take in a spiritual mind treatment, and that's which the process, the techniques that can be taught. But again, he's pointing to the more important aspect, which is feeling this and having this connection and knowing the truth about our connection with the inner spirit and divinity which is within, that we as spiritual mind practitioners and as religious scientists deeply believe that there is only one God, that this God is within us, as us, through us. And that this is something that we need to be fully conscious of. This is the perception of wholeness that he's referring to in this last paragraph, that is the consciousness of healing. That we need to be able to hold this consciousness of our oneness and unity with Spirit, the presence, the power, what we sometimes refer to as God, and that this is through, this is what is the fire from heaven that then enlivens our ability to have effective and powerful spiritual mind treatments. It is the alignment of our individual thought with perfect right action of God, and we then treat for two reasons. But this alignment of our individual thought with the perfect right action of God, that is because everything that God does and is perfection in action. There is everything that spirit and creative force, power, energy creates and brings forward is good. It's not capable of creating anything that is bad or imperfect. And so the perfect right action of God is obvious to us. So we treat for two reasons. The one reason is to make a positive change, and the second reason is to stay in oneness with God. The difference between affirmative prayer and more traditional prayers is that instead of beseeching an outside God to grant our wish, we are reminding ourselves of the perfection that is backing everything, that is in and through everything. Because at the end of the day, all spiritual mind treatment is done in mind. But it's more than just in mind, as I keep alluding to, and as the first slide told us, it's not just in the mind, it's not an intellectual exercise. It's a feeling, it's a knowing, it is a unity with this inner presence, and getting to know that inner presence in a way then that enlivens and makes real the efficacy of the spiritual mind treatment. So the sum of the is not well-wishing is in, oh, there it is. It's not, oh, I wish, I hope. We've seen that. We've all, well, hey, we've all been there. We've all been that little girl. And it's not what we're going to, it's not SpongeBob. Oh, please, please, please. Nor is it Kitty. I beg you, please. No, so spiritual mind treatment is not about hoping or wishing or asking, and certainly not about begging. Go back. Go back. No. Because God is not a vending machine. When we're oftentimes in some of the prayer traditions that we may have grown up with, there was much more of a sense that if we used the right language and we were properly disposed with God, that somehow the language we used would make God listen to us. But as we pointed out in the reading, Any God that would listen to one and not to another is not the kind of God that we believe in here at Centers for Spiritual Living. So, spiritual mind treatment, when you are doing this wishing or hoping, you're asserting a separation or a powerlessness. If you're saying, oh, please listen to my prayer, you're asserting that I'm over here and God's over there, and that you have to then make this petition to this person that's outside of yourself. And so this is where we're kind of trying to say, no, that's not what it's about. And it's also kind of bringing to mind that I'm weak and I'm powerless and I can't do anything without God acting on my behalf. And that the world is arbitrary and chancy and anything could happen. Well, certainly in the world that we live in, we do all experience feelings of separation, that I'm here and there's something over there, and that sometimes we definitely feel powerless. If anybody has had a sick child or a sick parent, we definitely feel powerless in those instances where there's nothing that seems like we can do to change the outcome. And we've all witnessed that anything does happen. But in the world that is behind the manifestation, in the spiritual realm that is the realm of Spirit of God, the divine, from which everything arises and gives expression into the materiality of the world, there is no separation, there is no powerlessness, and everything that happens in an orderly way, progressive way that is designed for our good. And so there is no need for feeling that we need to beg anybody. We don't lead our lives based on wishful thinking. When I go to the store and I buy a new toaster, I have every expectation that when I go home and plug it in, it's going to make toast. I trust, I believe, I know that it's going to make toast. When I turn on the light in my living room, I don't wish that there will be light. I don't hope that there will be light. I don't pray that there will be light. I turn on the light and I know it will be there. And so this is the same that it is with our approach to God and spiritual mind treatment. It has nothing to do with wishing and everything to do with knowing. So in a state of well-wishing or hoping for something, we feel separate from that thing which is more powerful than we are, and the outcome seems chancy and arbitrary, and that is not where we are going. So who is this God that we believe in, and what do we know about God as religious scientists? Well, first and second, we are one with God. There's no separation. We don't have to wish. We don't have to hope. If you and I can be so sure about a toaster working for us, surely we know that then God, power, the creative source, the presence that's behind and in and through everything will work for us too. When we think about that lamp in our living room, we can turn it on and we know that it's going to go on. I have a guaranteed method. I plug the lamp in if I need to. I turn the switch, the light comes on. I know exactly how to turn on the lamp and to direct the light where I need it. There is no separation from God, and we don't have to wish or hope. Spiritual mind treatment gives us a guaranteed method to turn on the light of truth. When we want to change something in our lives, spiritual mind treatment takes us from "it can't happen," "I wish it would happen," "I hope it would happen," to "it must happen." When you give a spiritual mind treatment, You are not wishing that someone or something will be healed. You are not hoping that someone or something is asking that someone or something will be healed. You are making definite statements about the person or the situation. So a definite statement makes us return back to the truth of what's really going on. As we focus on and affirm the spiritual truth, our experiences of the conditions change. So a definite statement ties back to what we know to be essential and true about spiritual reality. There's a couple of other ways we can think about it. That the good we're thinking about already exists. That was kind of what I alluded to before, that in the spiritual realm, that everything was created for, and given, it was perfection then, it was given rise to, and it moves forward in the spiritual dimension and in the way that is perfect, whole, and complete. It then manifests into what we know as the world. So everything exists already in the mind of God. And we know that we have experiences like this when we are at the airport and we take off on a plane. It's a rainy day, and we think, oh, it's raining. Then when the plane gets up, we actually realize that the sun has been shining all along. And so spiritual mind treatment is a way then of eliminating that appearance that it is raining, to reveal that the sun is shining all along. And we don't have to ask God for anything, or spirit, because it already exists. It already exists, but we may not have the vision or the alignment with that to have that experience in our lives. But spiritual mind treatment, when done, brings us into alignment so that we can have a fuller, more complete experience to accept the good that has already been given. And John 8:32, ye shall know the truth, and that truth shall make you free. And this is what spiritual mind treatment will do for us as well. So, the steps of a spiritual mind treatment. And the first one, which is a purpose. What is it that's bothering me? It's a little bit more complicated than that. So, if you were to go to the beach and were to pack a bag to go to the beach, you might take a swimsuit and a towel. And if you were going to go pack a bag to go down to the plaza and go shopping, you would take something entirely different. Or if you were going to go to the college to a lecture, you would pack something different yet. One backpack doesn't solve everything. You don't bring the same things to the beach that you bring to a lecture. And it's unlikely that you would need your bathing suit if you were at the plaza shopping. So you want to, one size does not fit all. If you want to have your purpose in terms of what is it that's bothering me, if you want your purpose to be something like restful sleep or a new job, you're going to use different words when you're dealing with restful sleep than you're going to be using with a different attitude than if you're looking for a new job. So when you're thinking of the purpose, you think about what it is that what you want. And let's say that for the purpose of this is that you want to have more harmony in your home or in your workplace. But then you think about, well, what do I want instead? So instead of, you don't want to be focusing on what it is that you don't want, you want to focus on what you want instead. So if you want to have more harmony in your home, and they say, well, I'd like there to be more love and more, I want it to be calm, and I don't want there to be any fighting. Well, I just would like to feel a sense of ease in my home. And that is what your purpose becomes. This, what it is that you want, not what you don't want. So you have to spend some time when you're thinking about a purpose to move away from what it is that you don't want to what you want, because we can all spend a lot of time going over and over and over again, reiterating, oh, I'm tense, I'm anxious, this disagreements at home are really difficult and challenging. So instead, you want to think about, no, I want to experience harmony, calm, and peace. That's your purpose. Then you want to think about, those are the words too that you're going to use then when you move into your next phase in your of the treatment, which is, what is God or Spirit? So you have your purpose that's in front of you, and now you're thinking about, first step is, what is God or Spirit? And so I'm thinking about the harmony in my home. I'm going to try and also, well, I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to stop, and I'm going to use my own words and my own experience, and I'm going to think about what is true for me, that God or Spirit is calm and love, kindness. And I'm going to use those kinds of words and get into it. And I'm going to think, I'm going to take my time. What is God and Spirit to me in the context of my purpose and what's bothering me? So I then think about that, and I use those kind of words: kind, loving, gentle, all-knowing. And then we move into the next step, and your words continue to go with that and say, and I know that because God is loving and kind and everywhere and in and through everything, I know that I'm part of that too, that God made me and is in and through me, and is in and through all the members of my family, and that there's no separation between me and this divine being that is within. And then we move to the third step, that I convince myself that what I desire is already mine. And so we think in terms of saying something that would be like, and I know that harmony flows into my home, is present, and that I engage with my family with loving kindness and patience, and I am gentle and pleasant regardless of whatever is going on. And I spend some time then in this part of the prayer enlivening and using the words that then describes the outcome that I'm looking for in words that make sense to me. And then we go into the next step, which is, I'm grateful that this is true. I might use something that would say something like, I celebrate that I've had a change in consciousness that allows me to really understand and experience the harmony that's in my home, and I'm so thankful that I can now see how loving behavior and kindness is my habit in the way that I interact with my family. And then we release the treatment to the automatic action of the law of God, relaxing, knowing that this is being handled for me. And in the example that I've been using, I let go. I release this. I know it's done. It's complete. And we may use a word that says something like, we might say amen, or we might say something like, and so it is. And so these are the steps of a spiritual mind treatment, and how to not only follow the steps, but to bring in feeling that then makes it seem more personal and intimate, and not just a bunch of words, but a reflection of something that we are feeling inside. And when we're finished giving our treatment, we then take a little bit longer and we just sit with it. And we just let it sort of sink in. And let it speak in the words that we've just put forward. Because that's important too. The secret of prayer and its power and the outward life depends upon an unconditional faith in and reliance upon this inner presence. We must always come to a place of acceptance and conviction in each step. We are only working to convince ourselves. It's vital that we have this deep conviction in our own words. Whatever we truly believe, as long as it is in alignment with the spiritual and natural laws and hurts no one, it will come to pass, it will manifest. Often we believe that what we're saying in our treatments, but we're just really hoping that it's going to happen. And until we have that inner conviction, until we are intimate with that inner divinity and speaking on a level that resonates truly with what we feel inside, we cannot have the outcome that we seek. But at the end of the day, the best way to learn how to treat is to just do it. And it's important to keep treating until you have your demonstration or a result of your treatment, just as Barbara did. And many of us here, we've all can give testimony that it works. It really works, again and again and again. So, the affirmation for today, if you'll all join me in reading this together. I calmly and clearly remember the good that is in me and around me. And this was by Reverend Joyce DeFallo, who wrote the outline of this sermon for this week. And then we have Carol Thomas, one of our members, writes, and we each take turns writing affirmations for the group as well. And hers we'll read together too. With calm assuredness, I remember and accept all the good that is divinely and unequivocally mine. So, in this talk with a spiritual mind treatment, and I know that we are all, that God is all that there is, that God is spirit, presence, is in and through me, as me, around me, fills me with everything that I could possibly want or need, and that there is nowhere that God is not, and that I am absolutely always one with this divine presence and spirit that acts in and through me here and now, and that this spirit is in and through everyone that is in this room, that is in the audience, and everyone that is in this living on this earth. All of creation is one with this mind and spirit. It can be no other way. And I know that this mind, the spirit, this presence seeks to expand and express through each one of us with more love, more joy, more enthusiasm, more hopefulness, more kindness. And that we each are expanding in the mind of God into fuller expression of all the gifts and all the goodness that has been given to us. And I celebrate that I know that this is true, that my consciousness is expanded to be more accepting, to receive it all and say thank you. And I am so grateful that I know that this is true, and I release these words into the law, knowing it is done, it is so. And I invite you to join me in saying, and so it is. At this time in the service,